Hey everybody, it's Taylor with Boydston Grove, and today we're gonna make a door harp. Let's get into it. I saw one of these harps hanging on my friend's door, and I figured this would be a really cool project to try to tackle. Little did I know that this is a super popular project for most woodworkers. So after watching a bunch of tutorials and how-to videos, I found that Steve Ramsey over at Woodworking for Mere Mortals offers a free template on his website, and I figured that would be a great baseline to start this project with. Now, most door harps are built like a sandwich. They start out with a thick piece of wood like this, and they cut out the center, and then they put a thinner piece of wood like this on both the front and the back. I decided to take one thick piece, a leftover piece of butcher block, and route out the center like a bowl, then inset a back panel so the harp would look like one solid piece. I traced a line inside the template. This will be my guide so that I make sure to leave enough space to inset that back panel. I used a flush trim bit in my router, just freehanding it until I got deep enough for the bearing to make contact with the wood. Once I had the cutout as deep as I dared to make it, I cut out the shape on the bandsaw. I went over all the edges with a roundover bit. Then I used a rabbet bit to create a little rabbet for the back panel to sit into. I used some paper to trace the shape I needed for the back panel and cut it out with some 1/8 inch material over on the scroll saw. And look at that, a perfect fit with absolutely no excessive trimming or sanding off camera. The template came with a design for the front sound hole, but I decided to make my own design. I drilled a few pilot holes and then cut it out on the scroll saw. All was going great, and then this happened.
Okay, that did not just happen.
Oh well, nothing a little super glue and activator can't fix. I also added a few small pieces of wood on the back for some additional strength. Then it was off to the drill press to make the holes for the tuning pegs. I went back off camera and countersunk the holes so the heads of the bolts that I used for the pegs would sit below the surface of the wood. I wanted the 3 pegs at the top to sit at an angle, so I set a board under the harp box while I drilled those 3 holes. And lastly, I drilled a hole in each of the dowels to feed the string through. Then it was time to start assembly. Before putting on the hardware, I applied some Odie's oil to the harp. I used some bolts and nuts for the tuning pegs and some pieces of guitar strings for, well, the strings. I I did make a recording of me putting on the strings, but it ended up that my hands were in the way the whole time, so you couldn't really see anything, so I'll just go over a few of the details real quick. You'll notice that I put notches on all the bolts of one side of the harp. This was a necessity because without those notches, the wires were just sliding around and around when I tried to tighten them. Now Steve, over at Woodworking for Mere Mortals, actually drilled holes through his bolts, but I really wasn't going to go there. I wound the wire around the bolts with the notches first, which seemed to work out pretty good because afterwards I could just loop them around the other bolts on the other side and pinch the wire to itself. Then I could go back to the bolt with the notch in it and use it to actually tune the wire. To make the balls that will hit the strings, I took some wooden crafting balls that I got off of Amazon and threaded some string through them. These wooden balls have a 3/16 inch hole in them, and it just so happens that Home Depot sells 3/16 inch dowels, and the fit was tight enough to hold the string in place. Alright, our door harp is finished and I'm pretty happy with how it turned out, but let me go over a few things that I would change if I made another one. The number one thing I would change is this bottom string. That is the high E string of a guitar that I used, and I thought it would be easier because it's the thinnest, lightest string, but actually when I ran out of E string because I kept breaking them, I moved up to the B string. Those worked much better. They're a little thicker, they were much easier to put on, and they actually resound a lot better and sound much fuller. So I'll probably end up changing out this bottom string, which is an E string, for another B string. Another thought I had was to make it bigger so I could add more strings, like 5 or 6, and I could actually tune it like I would a guitar, and you could actually have a really cool sound. For now, I'm really happy with how this turned out, and it gave me a lot of good ideas of what I can do on the next one. Let me know in the comments below if you like this idea or if you have some better ideas for a door harp. We work on a new project every week, so make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell. Thank you very much for watching, be safe, and have a great day.